I want to transition to our next section, our true or false section. So we're going to rapid fire a few of these that we found, and would love, whether they're true or false, or if there's some nuance. You could totally say that too.
Okay.
The first one, sadness is a negative emotion.
Am I supposed to say true or false?
Yeah, true or false. Or wait, hold up, nuance.
It's an emotion.
Yeah, true, exactly. I love it. The next one, bottling emotions can lead to physical symptoms.
Yes.
The brain prefers certainty even if it's wrong.
Most of the time, most people.
So, healthy relationships can help us process tough emotions.
100%.
You can be too self-aware for your own healing.
Whoa. No. You can perhaps be too intellectual about it.
Right. I've actually seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think self-awareness is like anything else. It can run amok.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a matter of being too self-aware. I think that's self-awareness run amok.
Right.
Which is different somehow than too self-aware.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I get the nuance there.
You can't have too much chocolate, but you can eat too much chocolate and have a tummy ache. You can never have too much chocolate. Cereal, you can never have too much cereal.
Yeah, never too much cereal. This next one, feeling sadness or anger fully can lead to healing. Feeling it fully.
Yes, although I don't think that's a one-to-one if-then. If you feel it fully, then you will be healed.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yep, absolutely. Healing from trauma is a lifelong process.
I think that's a really subjective. I think we could ask 10. I think I'm going to, it's not an overnight process.
Yeah,
it's not overnight.
You're allowed to caveat. You're allowed to say or shift it.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say, there's so many kinds of trauma,
right?
And the experiences that people have before they have traumatic experiences and the experiences they have after. There are so many influences in people's lives that impact how they experience trauma and how their relationship to that trauma during and after the fact, that I just would be hesitant to say anything generalizable about that process for another person.
I would ask you this one. Group therapy can help build trust and connection.
I think that's true. Mm-hmm. Can being the operative word.
Okay. This next one, healing from trauma also involves the body, not just the mind.
Yes. And also there are trauma therapies that are more somatic than others.
Right.
There are some that are quite cerebral, right? Are quite sort of neck up. Right. And also I think what kind of trauma someone is presenting with makes a tremendous amount of difference. There are definitely no hard and fasts on that.
Right.
But I would say in general, yes, because this is connected to this. It's all connected.
Right.
You can't really separate the two out.
Yeah, that book, The Body Keeps the Score, is very
100%.
Very, very interesting.
Yes.
This last one, tough love approaches are effective for healing trauma.
I don't even know. I'm actually not sure what that would refer to.
I've seen this comes from something we found online. So there was someone saying that, like, getting in people's face, saying like, you need to get over it, and that, like, people need that to heal trauma. And that
I have never found that to be. I have never heard of that being a thing. That sounds damaging to me. That sounds like it would cause people much more difficulty.
That's what we thought, but
our team was like, a terrible idea.
You need to ask Lindsey about this.
Imagine in what context that would be helpful.
I've been seeing it a lot in these male tough love. Like, you know, you gotta like beat out the trauma. You've gotta like these strange influencers. Sorry, I'm just gonna be honest. I find it to be strange. Who are telling men specifically that you need tough love and whatever you're, you know, dealing with, just suck it up and blah, blah, you know, like there's very much this tone too. So
that's disturbing. I find that really, I don't even know how to respond to that. I was like, I don't know what we're talking about. Who's saying that? No, that, I mean, certainly what you're describing there that sounds anti-therapeutic.
Right.
And I think also we need to be really careful, and I'm sure the world that you're pointing to there, where, you know, this is coming from, is not careful about this, about what we mean by trauma. Right. So not everything that bothers someone is traumatic.
So true.
Right. So I suppose there's a world in which I'm gonna use myself as an example because that seems safe. Right. Something can be bothering me, and maybe somebody does need to be like, Lindsey, come on, move on. Like, move on. Right. Like, okay, enough. Right. I mean, sure. I think there are conditions under which that's happened to me, and thank you to those people for being like, let's go. Right. Which is hardly what you're describing either. You know, you're saying it's like pretty aggressive.
Yeah, pretty aggressive over things that are horrible. You know,
that's okay. So that's my next. Yeah, that's my next
things
sort
that
of
are really deep and saying you need to like suck it up and, you know, are you a real man? I've actually heard this in videos.
Wow.
And it's to me, it's quite trigger. You know,
that sounds intensely disturbing. Intensely disturbing. And traumatizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And traumatizing.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you just see them shudder. Like you see the people in the video just, it's horrible.
Yeah, we could have a really long discussion about that little piece. And actually, I probably, you know, I could refer you to so many other people to have this discussion with who would have many like remarkable things to say about that. There's a working therapist and scholar named Terry Real, Real, Terryreal. And Terry Real is really tremendous, and he's the developer of a therapy called RLT, which stands for Relational Life Therapy. And Terry Real's interest started out in men's issues, and he wrote a book called I Don't Want to Talk About It, The Legacy of Male Depression. And then he's written several books since then. But one of the things Terry Real talks about again and again and again in so many nuanced and incisive and remarkable ways is the disservice that this culture is doing men in particular.
So true.
Yeah. And what you're describing to me sounds absolutely toxic.
Yeah.
And I bring up Terry Real because one of Terry Real's big areas of focus is shame.
Yeah.
And the compounding effects of shame, right? And when you shame anyone for having human feelings or hard experiences, you are doubling down on the trauma, right? If anything exacerbates trauma experiences, it's shame about them, right? And that's often what is so traumatic to people about their traumatic experiences, the degree of shame they're already experiencing that thing happened, right? That they went through that. And so I'm sadly unsurprised to hear you tell me that there's a corner of the world that's suggesting that.
Right.
And that is not something that absolutely not.
Yeah, agree. I want to move to our rapid fire. I have just a few I want to ask you that are also a little bit controversial, and then some about you. Curious, what is one wellness trend that you feel like needs to be called out? Just kind of on the note that we're going on with this tough love being therapy. What is one thing that you're like, you know, this is just not the thing? Why are people suggesting it?
Oh, I love that. I'm also relieved that I don't have an instant answer. I'm really glad that I can't think of anything off the top of my head where I'm like, that's gonna go.
Yeah. That is
I'm so relieved I don't know. Now maybe this also means I don't follow enough trends. It could just be a sign that I live a little bit under a rock in this department.
Right. And that's good that if you don't have an answer, that's totally fine.
I might. Okay, here's something I'll put out there.
Okay.
maybe it's sort of ancillary. I wish that folks were a little less rigid in their ideas about journaling.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. I think it's occurred to me from things I've been told and seen and heard that there's sort of this mystique around journaling, that this is something that you should buy a really pretty leather-bound or unicorn encrusted or something fantastic that only comes from the bowels of Etsy and costs you $48 and then you have this beautiful pen and only that pen shall write in that notebook, right? And you pull it out and you use your best handwriting and you say really deep things and they're so meaningful that your own mind is blown by this deep reflection and introspection. And I just feel like that's so much pressure.
I agree.
I can't write under those conditions.
I see, right. If anyone actually looked at my journal, they'd be like, whoa, this is wild. Because I'm just like, like, but if that pressure of it has to be beautiful and perfect and complete
and for posterity.
Prose, and
insightful and incisive. And I tell people, I'm like, look, how about this? How about you start writing things down on the back of receipts, cocktail napkins, junk mail, and then you staple all those pieces together in the corner.
Love it.
And once you collect 10, you throw them out. That's my journal. Like, it's
I love
10
it.
pieces of garbage that you have written the ravings of a mad woman on, right? And it is in like bullet point shorthand that only you would understand, and sometimes you don't even understand it. Because I think the point of journaling is to do the exercise in the moment. What you're getting out of it is the process, not a product.
Agree.
And the more we focus on pretty, spiral bound, unicorn encrusted things, then it's become a product. There's an outcome. A thing. And if you start scrolling away on the back of a cocktail napkin, when was the last time you went out of your way to like preserve a cocktail napkin? Never.
Exactly.
Right? Or the back of a receipt. So I'm a big believer in journaling as a much jankier process.
Me, same. I agree. I want my journal. I love when you said ravings of a bad woman. Like, that's what I want my journal to be, the space to be, where I'm like, man, if anyone found this, they would be like, I can just be so radically honest and
100%.
not feel like this is a Pinterest board, like
100%. Yes. Or how about, you can get those, they make they say they're for kids, but they make those crayons that you can write on the shower with.
Yes.
What if you just kept a stack of those, like with your shampoo, and you could just make a bullet list in the shower, because that's where everybody thinks the things, right? In the shower.
I love that
and you just scribbled out in this kid's crayon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's journaling, people.
Yeah,
that's journaling.
I love that. That's a really good one. And I feel like journaling has become such an industry where it's, like everyone's journal needs to be like this Pinterest highlight reel or like profound quotes. And I think that actually prevents people from doing the work and saying the things. If you can't be honest with yourself in your journal, then what is going on here?
Right. It is that mentality gets you focused on this product outcome, which is the antithesis of what journaling is, which is supposed to be in the moment, vomit, word vomit, thought vomit, feeling vomit. Right. And that's the point of it. After you've done that, you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And some people think it, find it helpful to go back and whatever, and fine, power to you. But the pressure, I laughed, bullet journals.
Yes, I know. Yep.
I mean, bullet journals I thought were really interesting because that was sort of like the engineer's version of like the unicorn encrusted journal, because it feels so pretty and neat and organized, and they say you don't have to like do it but you feel obligated to, because look at all those pretty lines, and it's also very neat and organized. I mean, I don't see anybody drawing squiggly dragons in their bullet journal.
No. There's a whole.
It's just a different iteration of the same problem in my mind.
Pinterest and Reddit communities showing people showing how beautiful their bullet is, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be shamed out of that community because my stuff is like bootleg. So bootleg.
Or who's to say that for me, and I mean this seriously, this is true. For me, a journal entry is something that I think of, and then I'm like, how am I going to remember this? How am I going to remember this? And I will email myself, and it's 2 run-on sentences. of just the one thing. And I email it to myself because then somewhere it's in my email, which is a paper trail. Yay me, I can find it later. But I don't really want to find it. I just want to have gotten it out. And I didn't have a piece of paper at the time, and I didn't have a pen, right? So that is the fastest way for me to sort of like paper airplane that business out into the universe. And that's what I need to do, is paper airplane it. I don't need to get the paper airplane on the other end.
Agree. Totally agree. Oh, I love that you brought up journaling. That's a really good one. I want to ask one more thing. Biggest misconception about trauma. What is that in your mind? I
don't know. To be honest, I don't know what the biggest misconception about trauma is. I think one of them is this idea that if the person had done something differently or was handling it differently, then they wouldn't be traumatized. There's this sort of like individual level accountability on this person who's been traumatized, that they had more control than they did over this experience, which of course is partly the root of trauma, is that it was out of this person's control in so many ways, or they had no choice, or they felt helpless, or they were helpless. But I don't know how. I guess there are two kinds of misconceptions: popular misconception, or like within the field, or for people who have trauma. And I don't specialize in trauma, so there are other people who would probably have some more timely, nuanced things to say about that.